What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So I thought I would go ahead and continue with this update of the top 10 small forwards and just do a brief recap. At number 10, James Worthy. At number 9, Dominique Wilkins. Number 8, Scottie Pippen. At number 7, Rick Barry. And that was no change from last year. At number 6, still no change from last year, I have the great Elgin Baylor. And at one point in time, Elgin Baylor was the greatest small forward the game had ever seen, probably before the rise of Dr. J and Larry Bird. But Elgin Baylor was probably, no, he was. I'm thinking about it. George Mikan was the first superstar, but Elgin Baylor was the first black superstar. Now, Bill Russell preceded him, and you can make arguments that Bill Russell was the superstar before him, but Bill was more of a team player, whereas people went to see the Boston Celtics. They didn't necessarily come just to see Bill Russell. They came to see Elgin Baylor. You understand what I'm saying? They came to see Elgin Baylor light up the floor, light up the game, light up the opposition. And he wasn't just a scorer. He was a great rebounder. He had an array of moves. Before the knee injury, 65, he was a phenomenal athlete doing crazy things that preceded Michael Jordan that we hadn't seen an athlete do before, as far as hanging in the air and things of that nature. Before Wilt Chamberlain, he was setting scoring marks that people thought would never be broken. But Elgin Baylor was very significant in a lot of ways. But over time, I'd say over the past 15, 20 years, Elgin Baylor has kind of fallen off a little bit, man, and it saddens me. When I say fallen off, I mean as far as the all-time rankings. There was a time when Baylor was considered top 10, but he's been slipping. Then there was times he was top 15, that slipped. Top 20, he's even fallen out a lot of top 20s. And that bothers me because of his historical significance. Elgin Baylor saved the Lakers franchise from folding. All right? Now, he couldn't prevent it from moving from Minneapolis to the Lakers, which ultimately proved to be a great thing anyway. But he saved that franchise from folding. After the George Mikan dynasty, the Lakers fell on some hard times, and they were hemorrhaging money. And had Elgin Baylor decided to sign with another franchise, more than likely the Lakers would have folded in a couple of years. And we would have never had the history the way we had it. We would have never had Jerry West and Elgin Baylor playing for the Lakers. We would have never had Kareem come join it. We would have never had Showtime Lakers. We would have never had Kobe and Shaq playing. We would have never had the Lakers as we know it. They would have folded probably sometime in the late 50s or early 1960s had Elgin Baylor not signed with them. And he was a great, great player. Go through some of his numbers for you, his accolades. He was 6'5", 225, so he was a big forward for his time period. He was born in 1934 in Washington, D.C. Of course, he passed away just last year at the age of 6 in Los Angeles. Initially, he went to the College of Idaho, but he finished off at Seattle University. He was the first overall pick in the 1958 draft, selected by the then Minneapolis Lakers. He played for about 13 years. He retired 9 games into the 1971-72 NBA season. But because he was part of that team that wound up winning a championship, he did get a championship ring, which is something that sometimes gets erroneously reported, and that is that he never won a championship. He did. Now, you could argue about whether he should have gotten it, but he did win a championship in 1972. As a player, he played exclusively for the Minneapolis and then, of course, later Los Angeles Lakers. He did coach with the New Orleans Jazz. He was an assistant for a couple of years. He was the interim head coach briefly for the Jazz, and then he became the head coach of the Jazz for a couple of years. But he primarily is known post-retirement for being the general manager, I believe, the Clippers for so many years, although he did not get along very well with then-owner Donald Sterling. He was 11-time NBA All-Star, 1959 NBA All-Star Game MVP, 10-time All-NBA First Team, NBA Rookie of the Year 1958-59. He was on the 35th, 50th, and 75th anniversary teams. His number 22 is retired by the Los Angeles Lakers. And he was the NBA Executive of the Year back in 2006. For his career, this is incredible considering there was no three-point line back then. He averaged 27.4 points per game for his career, 13.5 rebounds per game, and 4.3 assists per game. As a matter of fact, between 1959 and 1965, Elgin Baylor in his prime averaged 31.1 points, 15.4 rebounds, 4.4 assists per game. A guy was a scoring machine. I believe before Wilt scored 100, he had the NBA record for most points in the game, which was 71. He still holds the finals record for most points in the game with 61 back in 1962 with the Lakers against the Boston Celtics, a series that, despite Baylor averaging more than 40 points per game, I believe it was, or was it 38 points a game? I have to look at it again. But Baylor averaged a lot of points in that series. But despite Elgin Baylor going off scoring-wise, they still were able to edge out the Lakers, the Celtics, in 7. Elgin Baylor, just a phenomenal basketball player. And, yeah, there's no doubt about it. Number 6, 23,149 points, 11,463 rebounds, 3,650 career assists. And I know another knock on Baylor is that he never won an NBA Finals. I believe he's 0-7 for his career in the finals. I believe he's 0-7. West was 1-8. But the only excuse I could give for him, or explanation, I guess I should say, is that when he and West were in their primes, they never had that dominant big that could contend against a Bill Russell in the finals. And that was ultimately what caused them to lose those finals. When Bill Russell would go up against the Lakers in the finals, that's when he often had his best series. That's when he would maybe have a series averaging 25 and 25 or 27 and 18 or something like that. You know, he would go into scoring mode because he would kill the opposing center. Whereas when the Boston Celtics were going up against a team led by Wilt Chamberlain, often the weakness was in the backcourt. And even though while people focused on the matchup between Chamberlain and Russell, usually Russell was out-rebounded and outscored by Wilt, but it didn't matter because Chamberlain's backcourt may score 20 points total, but, you know, Sam Jones might score 28 and Cousy will score 24. And then the backcourt is outscoring you 52-20. It's hard for Chamberlain to make up for that. You see what I'm saying? So oftentimes those series, people keep focusing on Wilt and Russell, but it was actually the backcourt that decided off a lot of those series. But anyway, number 6, number 6, Elgin Baylor. Tell me what you guys think.